Hey guys, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my NCLEX experience and plus a little bit of how my first year of nursing is going so far. I want to say that I studied for the NCLEX for a solid week and a half or so. And I know that's really out of character for me considering how much I study for the exams in school, but I figure this time that I have after I graduate would be the last time I can go on a vacation for a really long time, so we decided to take a trip, and I did some questions while I was there, but honestly I don't really feel like that counts. So the time that I came back from the trip to when the NCLEX exam was about a week or a week and one day, and so every day up until the night before the exam I studied like 200 questions every day, and I had the nerves and I had the panic and the anxiety, but as soon as I took the exam and it stopped at 76, I'd say 75 or 76 questions, I can't remember, it's been a minute, but let's just say it went by really fast. Like, I made a note to myself to never look at the number of questions I was at, and I remember maybe like 30 minutes had passed by and I was done. And the only reason why I was in the room for 45 minutes is because I opted to take a voluntary question at the end for the new format. But anyway, I want to say I was done within, 30 to 45 minutes. And so, of course, I felt like it was easy, or at least easier than I expected. And talking to a lot of people that are in the residency position with me at the hospital who also took the exam, I feel like everybody just stresses themselves so much. And as long as you went to a good school and as long as you study and you're getting like the easy questions right. What I mean is, like, if you're not getting those questions that are really hard right, like, don't worry about it, because there's no questions on the NCLEX that are like so tricky. If anything, I would say that it's really easy to eliminate what the wrong answers are. Even the select all that apply is so easy to narrow down what are the right answers. I can't give you an example off the top of my head right now, but I just want to reassure you that just relax, it was easy. And if you're doing, I don't know, if you failed or whatever, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but for those of you who have failed, or if you think you're going to fail, it's most likely, I want to say, because you didn't study or you went to a really crappy school who didn't prepare you. And so if your school has a statistic of the NCLEX pass rate of like upwards of 90%, most likely your exams are pretty similar to the NCLEX, if not harder. So the NCLEX would be a lot easier than your exams. Anyway, fast forward to what is today, end of March. So I started my residency position for about 3 months now, and I still have a week or two left of my orientation. Technically I have more or less. Technically I was done already. It's just because that the education department has a bigger budget. My director allows me to train more, and she doesn't want me to rush it. And I'm grateful for it because I don't feel prepared to take on 5 patients, which is a matrix on my floor for each nurse to have. And there's days where you'll have 6 if it's shorthanded. And I've only had 5 patients for 2 days, and with 1 patient, 2 patient, 3 and 4 patient, I always felt like the next day was always easier. The first day was always hard, the second day gets easier, and by the third day it's like easy. But for having 5 patients, I haven't gotten used to it yet, so I went back to 4. In fact, on my first day of having 5 patients, I made a med error. I had like 3 discharges and 2 admits, and it was a crazy day. I knew I wasn't ready, and I told my preceptor I don't feel ready, but she was like, we got to get you to it. And so eventually my director decided there's no reason to rush it, kind of thing. So I'm grateful for that. And if you're wondering what it's like during this coronavirus COVID-19 crisis, what it's like working in a hospital, at first I was anxious every time I walked into the hospital, thinking that it's full of the virus, I'm gonna get it, we're all gonna die kind of thing. But they have a lot of policies going on where I feel protected. They check everyone's temperature going in, staff member wise. They used to do it for visitors, but now they have a policy where there's absolutely no visitors, and everyone goes through the ER, and they can't just go to your floor. So the ER will rule out whether or not they're showing symptoms or they're suspected of it, and there's one floor designated for all the suspected patients, and they go there to be ruled out. But I heard recently that other floors other than that quarantine floor are getting patients that are being ruled out too, which is kind of scary because it could eventually be on my floor, a med-surg floor, and we don't have, what am I trying to say? Like, once they're ruled out on that designated floor, then they come to your floor once it comes back negative. But if they're going to your floor to be ruled out and it happens to be a positive patient, imagine not being well equipped to take care of this patient or having enough resources to take care of this patient while having 5 patients in total or sometimes 6 kind of thing. So I feel like that's a really scary thought. I don't have an N95 mask yet. I heard that when it comes time to actually taking care of a COVID patient, I will be provided one. But a couple of weeks ago when I put in a request for one to just be prepared, house supervisor denied it, saying that I just don't need it yet. I do have surgical masks, but I don't know. I mean, they're so flimsy and they tear so easily, and I don't know. And I always feel weird wearing it in the hallways because we're always told we can't wear it room to room, but now there's a new policy where all nurses have to wear a mask at all time, and this only started just yesterday. And so if you don't excuse me, have a sturdy mask and you're wearing just a paper mask, it's like, how long will that last really? And so I do get scared and I do get anxious, but I'm not like super anxious, like I'm quivering going in. I feel like there's a lot of policies in place to protect us, and they're checking our temperatures before we leave as well, and if we have a temperature, I think we have to be admitted to the ER. But going into your shift and you have a temperature, you have to go straight home and stay there for like 24 hours or something like that, and you make the necessary phone calls and it's okay to miss your shift kind of thing. But to be honest, if my long-term goal wasn't to be a travel nurse where I need a year experience, I would be actively looking for a telecommuting job or some sort of virtual telephone job I can do as a nurse at home, because it's just not worth it. I have a notorious history of a bad work history, but I always feel like my reason for leaving was always justified. In the past, I would leave before a year because it would conflict with my school schedule or something. Today, during my first year of my residency, I feel like I was not expecting to be going through a pandemic, and I know as nurses we have that inner call to go where the need is greater, but I'm just too inexperienced. I don't feel like I have that passion to help people while sacrificing myself and sacrificing those around me and their health kind of thing. And I hope I don't sound horrible for saying that, but that's just my honest opinion. So it's tricky, and I know my classmates who stayed behind and are still in nursing school, their clinicals were canceled and they have like some sort of paper homework in place of clinicals. And those in training, well, this is to preserve PPE and spread of infection. And speaking of PPE, if you're still in training as a nurse resident, you're not allowed to have an isolation patient because your preceptors sometimes go in behind you to make sure your assessment is right, and that's a waste of PPE going in. Oh, and people who we used to put MRSA patients on contact isolations. We no longer do that. People with a history of strong resistant infections, we used to put them on isolations. We no longer do that. So now we only put those with an active infection in the wound or something on isolation and those being ruled out and those with positive infections of the virus on isolations, but it's like fighting for resources, and it's so weird because you would think they have like an unlimited budget type thing, because as nurses you have this special responsibility to show up, and so you're getting paid, you're still getting paid a lot, and so how come they can afford to pay us but not afford to pay for the things we need to be prepared for work? I guess it's a surge in need, I can understand that, but just wanted to let you guys know little tidbits on what life is like. Well, I guess it's not really NCLEX season, but when it is in a couple of months, I wish you guys luck. Just breathe. I promise you it'll be okay. I know you're going to hear it all the time, you're not going to believe it or believe me, but I don't lie. So if you're going to believe somebody, believe me, it'll be okay.